Hey everybody, you're listening to/watching Mental Health on the Mic. I'm your host, Bennett Shear, and you may notice that I've had a friend with me for a couple weeks now, and I'm very excited because Lorraine, you are officially my co-host. So welcome
I'm
back to Mental
officially.
Health on the Mic. Woo!
I'm so happy to be here. If you're tired of my voice, I'm sorry. I'm here. And I'm really excited. This is gonna be really great. And I love being on and I love what we talk about. So very
Yes,
honored.
I'm so excited to have you. We've really been enjoying ourselves, and so we're so excited to continue bringing you all of these really important topics, really important conversations. With that being said, we're going to try something a little different for this week because I was having a little bit of like a creative rut. You know, it happens, but I also have a lot of things on my mind. And so, Lorraine, not only is it your first week as my official co host, but I was thinking maybe you could help me out. I've got five topics. We may get to
Okay.
three, we may get to four, who knows? But I'm just going to
Hmm.
name them and you're going to choose which one we start with. And we're just going to go from there. It's like a live show. Anything can happen, except it's not live. So if it's a disaster, we will edit. But with that being said,
All right.
here are the five topics that I have in mind, and you tell me which one you want to start with. So we have got famous people in the spotlight, big things versus little things, a shout out to my friend, putting ourselves first, or coping with change.
Hmm. That's a good list. I mean, all of them could be a great first one. Um, let's go with the last one.
Coping with change. Alrighty.
Yeah.
So, um, as I don't think I've mentioned I did mention last week that I was going to California. I just got back from a very exciting, eventful trip to California. But it was unexpected to say the least. And so I'm going to give you guys all the tea next week on like what really happened. Bottom line is, I thought I was going to go back to college. I thought I was going to go to college in California. That is no longer happening. So for me, it's been a very fast sort of like, okay, we're going back to the way things were before, and you know, it's something that I'm like privileged to be able to say I even could go to school. Of all things to happen in the world, this is not horrific by any means, but bottom line is, I was getting ready to fly across the country, have a fresh start, and now I am, home. I'm going to be here, and I have a different plan, which again I'm going to get to next week. But basically, change can be difficult on our mental health in many ways. For me, I'm going back to where I was before, so it's almost like that change I thought I was going to make is no longer happening. But for other people, whether it's moving, whether it's, I know Lorraine, we talked about loss because we were mentioning COVID a couple weeks ago. Even just the transition from like high school to college, like there's so many things when we think about change. And so throwing it over to you, I mean, has there ever been a time in your life when you have like had a major change that has like affected your mental health and been weird for you?
Um, I feel like one was like losing family members. I think that was a big change that it it's so unexpected that you can't plan for that type of thing. So dealing with it mentally is even harder in that sense because you're basically thrown with something and you have to adapt to it. And adapting is very hard normally for any reason, but especially when you're not fully like prepared to do that is hard. But I feel like I'm more dealing with change that's gonna happen instead of it's already happened, if that makes sense. Like I'm a
Mm-hmm.
junior in high school, so I'm having to like think of the future and know that change is gonna happen and all the variables that come with it. And it's scary because change naturally is scary because there's so many things that could go wrong. It's out of the normal or element, whatever, you know. So I just feel like there's always so many unknowns and you can't prepare for all of them. So I feel like change in a way is like kind of getting away from safe,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good thing because you need to like, move on in certain aspects of your life to like grow. But it's a scary factor because what could happen, you don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like, life. often throws curveballs at us as it did for me, but especially that move from high school to college, you're dealing with so many new things, not just like, hey, I'm away from home and I'm in this new place with new people. I mean, first of all, that's a lot in itself, but also you are not knowing what the environment's going to be like because with mental health, for instance, if you're someone like me who struggles with anxiety, when I tried school the first time, that was really difficult for me because I didn't know anybody. And for an anxious person being thrown into that environment where you're being forced to meet new people, I mean, I like to meet new people. It's just challenging for me. So it can affect my mental health. If you're dealing with anxiety in any way, if you're dealing with anything really, not being in your usual environment, I feel like can make things more difficult. I mean, no matter who you meet, even if you make great friends, even if you're talking to a therapist on campus, I mean, it's just, it can be scary. But I also think that if we're looking at the positives, and I know that you mentioned it's something that you're thinking about. I mean, do you think that wherever you go to school, that, maybe for anybody who's thinking about going to new school, that maybe there could be more, whether it's what high schools are doing, what colleges are doing, to help us kind of figure our mental health stuff out.
Yeah, I think in this generation specifically, I feel like there's already more outlets and things being put into place for students who do suffer and struggle with those things, that they have resources, they have people you can go to on the daily, whether it's virtually or in person visits. I think most schools have something for those students because it's a normal thing. And people, I mean, I'm nervous. I'm not, diagnosed or have like a major anxiety type thing, but I still am nervous. And I feel like even for people who aren't, you know, from minimal to severe, there's something for everyone. And I think wherever you go, there usually is something, which I think is great that we're starting to implement in more colleges and universities.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you bring up a great point, Lorraine, which is that mental health applies to all of us, right? Whether or not we have a
Mhm.
diagnosis, there are things that affect everybody. Mental health applies to all of us. And so, I think that it is great that we're seeing sort of a generational shift and schools are taking charge of that, trying to make us feel more at home. But, I think that there's so many variables, like you said. I mean, heck, well, as tempted as I am to say we've gotten out of a pandemic, I think, we all know that this is just an ever changing situation here with COVID. But, I was talking to somebody the other day, and their perspective was like the world is just going through so much change right now. Like between the pandemic and just so much we touched on last week, Lorraine. Like the news has been so crazy, and
Mhm.
every day we feel like something is happening, and it can be scary. It can be scary for us. It can be scary for the upcoming generation. Really, everybody. And so I feel like in general, regardless of whether you're in school, whether you're an adult, whether you're a little kid, like change can be really challenging, and we're living in times, I think, where it's kind of cliche to say like, oh, we're living in tough times, but I mean we kind of are, right?
I mean, yeah, like we've went through so much change. Like we're talking on the topic of change. Like this pandemic has changed literally every single aspect of our lives. I don't think I can name one thing that COVID hasn't really affected in our day-to-day lives. I feel like everything is tied in somehow to COVID, which is crazy. And there's just so much change that is done, has done, and to be done. And we all just kind of like got we just got thrown into this pool of like change, and we're just kind of having to deal with it in our own ways.
Oh yeah, and I mean I think there's a lot of different perspectives on it, right? I feel like there's some people, which to be honest, this is kind of how I used to be, and I feel like I'm shifting a bit, which is like we've got pre-pandemic, we all miss that. We've got pandemic, and then there's like post-pandemic. But I feel like with post-pandemic, there's some people that might see it as like let's get over the hurdle, let's get to the end of this, let's get to like the point where this is not existing anymore. Obviously we don't have to tell you that the science shows that like this could technically be here forever. That doesn't mean like it's going to be this bad. That doesn't mean that clearly we have vaccines, we have boosters, but I feel like when it's something that's kind of here to stay, whether it's that the virus itself might be here to stay, or that the impact it's had, like you said, whether you've lost somebody or you lost a job or your whole lifestyle has had to change, that stays forever. And it just adds to all the things in life that might come up at any point, really. And we never know when our lives are just going to be completely thrown so many curveballs.
Yeah, I feel like this is never going to end, but we're just kind of gonna, we can't like just jump a hurdle. Like
Yeah.
we're jumping hurdles to get like somewhere where it's, decently better. But we're
Yeah.
never gonna be like, oh, it's gone.
Yeah.
We're gonna still have it, but we're gonna have adapted to the point where it can be like a new normal. You know what I mean? Like normal is not a stationary word. It kind of moves with change. So like if you go to a new school, that's change. But over time, it gets to be your new normal. Kind of like the same thing with COVID. So
Oh,
there's
yeah.
always like a moving normal that happens. And I feel like people always like, I wish we can go back to like this. And like when we get through this, it's gonna be back to normal.
That's
It's a
exactly how I
weird
feel.
word. It's a weird word.
Yeah, no, I think, and you even mentioned stationary. I mean, that's exactly how I feel, and that's why I said I kind of used to think of it as like, oh, let's just get to the point where like, and we thought like, think of how many of us said in 2020 is just a bad year, and then 2021, COVID's cases went up. I think it's going to be here in 2022. We don't know when it's going to end, if it's going to end. I mean, but the way I see it, and the way that I feel is that that's okay. Yes, it sucks, but like, the world is always changing. It's changing in a way that's more extreme than it was before. But I was talking to somebody last week, and they had kind of a more pessimistic outlook as far as like, God, the world has never seen so much change. And I think in times of struggle, we have to try to find. I don't want to just jump and say the positivity, because I know that so many awful things have happened, but I think that there are other ways in which we have to embrace change, and it goes beyond COVID. I think it goes to the point of like, if we are just in check with our mental health, if we are checking in with ourselves, checking in with each other, doing what we need to do to make sure that we are mentally healthy. That is why I am so passionate about mental health, is because I believe that in addition to physical health, which can get us through a lot as well, and staying fit even when times are tough, if we have like faith, and if we have, and that can be religious or not religious, but if we have sort of this belief that everything is going to be okay, I believe it's going to be okay. I do. And
Mhm.
so I said to my friend, I said, the world is changing, but it's always going to change. And I think if we're in this together.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great outlook. I mean, I always carry the motto of like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And that sounds, I don't know the right way to put it, but with COVID that doesn't sound really great. But I'm not talking about, people who've gotten sick or lost their lives, or people who've lost people. It's more of like we're going through this because we're going to come out stronger in the end of it.
Yeah.
And there's going to be growth. And I think there's something has to come good out of it. I'm not saying everything is going to be good, but I'm saying it's happening, and I think this is a good thing because we can grow from it, and as a nation, as a global, human population.
I agree 110% with that. I think personally, I've found a lot of good, a lot of silver linings. I know that other people have, and I hope that if you are listening and maybe struggling to find silver linings, I hope you can think of some, because I truly believe that regardless of what you've been through, there's got to be something. All right, let's switch topics. Let's see what we got. Okay, so there's 4 left. Putting ourselves first, a shout out to my friend, big things versus little things, or famous people in the spotlight. Lorraine, what do you think?
Let's do big things over little things.
All right, a little personal anecdote here. I'd say that and I don't want this to sound dramatic when I say the word I struggle, because it's not something very heavy we're about to talk about, but I struggle with getting upset over the little things. And the thing that I kind of almost find bizarre about myself and how I cope with things that frustrate me is like bigger things, major like life things happening. Like, I'll give you an example. I had a day a couple months ago that'll always stick with me, because I was about to have a really big meeting with a TV producer. 1 minute before, his assistant texts me and says, Bennett, sorry, we're canceling on you. We got another thing we got to do. And it like was shattering, but I didn't get angry. I stayed relatively calm, tried to be level headed. Everything happens for a reason. But here's a little thing that I blew up over that was stupid. as I said, I was in California, and I'm a foodie, so I like to try new foods. So when I'm in a new place, I like to try things that I wouldn't have where I live. And so, in the car with my mom, and we didn't have much time to get to where we needed to be. So she's like, let's just get Wendy's. And I was like, I don't want Wendy's. We have Wendy's at home. I want something different. And I started getting like argumentative, and it was like totally unnecessary. And I felt so bad, felt crappy. We all lash out sometimes, but like I get upset over the little things. And so like I love therapy. I was talking to my therapist today, and he was just saying like, maybe it's because you feel you have control over it. Like, I don't know if this is getting like too off topic, but like with big things you can't really control if like a producer cancels on you. Little things you can control if you get one restaurant versus the other. And so like I don't know if like sometimes when we get frustrated over like the little things, it's because when we have control, we feel like we can lash out. I don't know if that made sense.
No, it does. And I was actually gonna like say a similar thing to that, where I feel like with little things, they're little and they're supposed to like go according to plan, like the
Yeah.
way you want them, because it's like little to ask. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
little thing to ask, little to like, go wrong. And then when it does go wrong or doesn't go your way, it's frustrating because it's like, well, what the heck? Like this is supposed to work out. Like this is how it's supposed to be. Like it's. But with bigger things, we always subconsciously know that there's like a line of or subject to error or like something bad to go wrong. But with little things, we kind of just like take it for granted in a sense. You know what I mean? And then when those things go wrong, it's like, what just happened?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think as far as how this relates to mental health, I mean, it's like, he was saying to me, Bennett, I want you to start checking in with yourself a couple times a day, like because if you are sort of mindful of your, I don't know how to phrase it, but like if you're mindful, if you're present, etc., then you'll be less likely to lash out when those little things happen. And I felt bad about it because I was like, I really don't like hurting people's feelings. I really don't like that if I said something to my mom, it upset her. But as far as mental health goes, I think he brought something up that really led to kind of a realization within me, which is like, we do lash out at others. We might even judge others sometimes, and none of us are perfect, right? We make mistakes, but I feel like if we all kind of like checked in with ourselves on a regular basis and kept ourselves calm and put things into perspective to say, all right, my life is good. I'm not gonna get upset if I can't eat like this food or whatever, or I can't go to Disneyland or whatever. I don't know. If we check in with ourselves to make ourselves feel present, not only will that make us feel less stressed, which in turn helps our mental health, but I feel like the world would be so much of a kinder place because you see, like, we talked about social media last week. You see all these like I just I heard about when I was literally right after I flew home, heard about an airport fight, and these happen all the time. We see them in the news. Like people in general, like if we all just like checked in with ourselves and like to not only keep our mental health in check, but then like make the world a better place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like we said this so many times, but I feel like some people overlook their own mental health.
Yeah.
And that just leads to a disaster. You can't avoid it. You can't go around it. You can't deny it. You have to face it head on. And every day, like check in with yourself. Do certain mental exercises if you have to. Some people do like gratitude journals. They like list everything. They're like positive like thoughts and positive ways to cope with things that you're going through need to be addressed and need to be addressed, in a relatively good time, not pushing it off or saying like, this doesn't matter. I'm going to do this and this is more important than this. Like your mental health is like
Yeah.
the most important thing to you. And so, like you said, if people were more aware and more vigilant with their mental health, those certain things can be avoided. Those little sparks of like annoyance or angerness for no reason can literally avoid like half of, or even more than half of like those airplane fights or just people going after people for like little reasons. But if your mental health is not in check, those little things can like make you explode.
Oh yeah. Other part of it is he said, well, actually, I kind of said this, and he, was like, this is great that you're saying it, but like I was saying, I think I want to stop, and this is lighting up another fuse for like an idea of something we can talk about. Like I want to stop judging other people even in moments when I get frustrated, because it's most likely coming from a place of my own personal frustration, right? I feel like
Mhm.
anytime we lash out, it's because of that. But also, like, imagine how much more productive our lives would be if we all maybe tried a little more to like check in with ourselves and work on the things that we could do to improve ourselves, and in turn again make the world a better place because we're therefore not hurting others. Like the social media thing we talked about, all these online
Mhm.
bullies and trolls and everybody, it's coming from a place of insecurity or pain or something. So if those people had the
Right.
chance to check in with themselves, it'd make a lot of people happier.
Yeah, and I feel like, this podcast is great because it, educates it, it brings to people what I feel like if there was just more of this, more people doing this, or more like mainstream, like people can get this advice
Yeah.
and understand that, like, oh, this is important. Oh, I should be doing XYZ to prevent this, this, and this. So this is a great thing that we're doing because I feel like a lot of people aren't properly aware of like how important your mental health is.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, I thought of something else because you have the high school perspective here.
Yeah.
Gossiping. Oh my God. I mean,
Mm.
this is taking away the social media part of it, even just like in person. I mean, I don't know what you see at your school, but like imagine if people who gossiped stopped. I'm not saying we never have all as human beings gossiped in our lives, but imagine if in general, the people who spend so much time talking shit about other people started to do the work on themselves. They'd realize,
Mm.
wow, like this is so much of a better use of my time than talking shit about somebody else. Like especially like because that's hurt. That's happened to me. It hurt. Like people would
Mm.
talk about me behind my back. I'm like half the time it was rumors, things they didn't, stuff they made up about me. But like if they had just spent time on themselves, working on themselves, they wouldn't be, hurting someone else's feelings, i.e., me, and their mental health would be better because they would be more secure with themselves.
Exactly. And I think this is very like subjective to
Yeah.
what school you go to, the population of your school. There's so many factors that go into it, but every school, you know, usually has gossiping or things going around, rumors being spread. And it's unfortunate. And I feel like that comes from like, they're not interesting themselves, or so they're like spinning up stories to make themselves look either better or to draw attention away from themselves, or to like, I don't know, get attention for it or something. I honestly don't get the reason. I don't agree with any of it. In my school personally, we're very small. So usually when things go around, they go around fairly quickly. Um, and usually good people don't listen to it, don't feed into the whole thing. But it's unfortunate some people, fall for it, and that person's being talked about. People are starting to believe these false things, and defending themselves sometimes doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate because always you should trust the person, who it's about, because they know themselves more than anyone else. But clearly, everyone usually results to the person who spread it, which is unfortunate. So it's a problem. It's a problem all over the place, and that's where mental health again comes into play, because things can be avoided, like you said, if things were addressed.
Totally. I went to a small school. I think we spoke, and I think we found out my school was like even twice as small as
Smaller
yours or
than
something.
mine,
Yeah.
yeah, which is
Um,
insane because
yeah.
it's hard to come by. Like small schools,
Ugh,
you
man.
know.
Yeah. I realized that actually fit the topic, the third one on my list, which was putting ourselves first. Basically, the
Yeah.
idea is you put yourself first, you work on yourself, you don't spend too much time talking about other people, let alone lying about other people. It serves everybody better. And, look, my thing is, right, is that we're, like you said, Lorraine, we're kind of giving out advice or whatever. My thing is
Hmm.
I don't want people to listen and think, oh, this is so easier said than done, in the sense that,
Right.
and we're both like of the age where we've made mistakes and we've maybe
Hmm.
been guilty of some of the things that we tell people, like you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. I'll never, I'll always, I'll stand in my belief that I'm just like a huge advocate for like let's destroy bullying, let's destroy unkindness, and those are all things that I believe and I preach. But like, I mean, I don't know. I'm just I try to be a very honest person as well. Like, there was one time in high school where I said something not nice about somebody and I felt so bad and I like own up to it and I didn't do it again because like I feel like I know how like I realized like wow like I can't believe I said something mean about somebody and it didn't make me feel good. It didn't make them feel good, obviously. So like I think that I speak from the experience of like, yeah, I've been bullied. People have talked shit about me, but I mean, I would never say I've been a bully, but I mean, look, we've all probably said not nice things about people occasionally. Like it just happens. So not
Hmm.
only are we giving advice, but Lorraine, I mean, you probably agree. Like we're here to say like we're human beings. Like we make mistakes too. So like, don't just think we're
Yeah,
perfect.
no, like that's the whole point of this whole thing. Like we aren't trying to get where like me and Bennett are like angels from heaven or whatever, and we have done nothing wrong. You know what I mean? Like we are human beings. You all who are watching or listening are human beings as well. We're not saying that like, you do this one thing one time or twice or whatever, and you're this like bad person and shame on you. We all make mistakes. We all say things that we shouldn't have said, but we did. But the point of this is owning up to it, like
Hmm.
Bennett said. He owned up to it. I've owned up to things. And you grow from that. Growing is a sign of strength and is a sign of a good person. It's when you're not growing and you're continually doing the same thing over and over again, that's where it becomes a problem. So I feel like it's allowed to make mistakes. That's part of who we are. But if you're not growing or understanding what you're doing is wrong and how it's affecting other people, that's where, mental health needs to be worked on because clearly, something's a little off.
Oh yeah, and just to add to that, because I'll even heck if I'm owning up to something, I'll even give an explanation. Like this gets into something else I'm coming up with, which is like I feel like, and this is kind of out of the blue. Tell me what you think. I feel like sometimes friend groups, like big friend groups, can be really toxic because basically what happened was, and I was in ninth grade, and I there was like I gave in to like the whole culture of like you're accepted into this group and there's usually either like a leader or one or two people that kind of dominate and I was not one of them. I was sort of like accepted or whatever, not like a cult, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And this one person, this girl who I was not like super duper close with, and she's like, "Do you think I could hang out with you guys?" And I was like, "No," and it was like it hurt her feelings. It's so stupid. Like I don't know. Like it's sort of going off on a tangent, but like I feel like big friend groups, not always, but can be kind of toxic. This is just like bringing back the memory of the one time when I regretted like not being nice to someone in high school. It was just like when I thought that somebody wasn't cool enough to be a part of a group that I was in, and it really hurt their feelings. Like it just, I don't know. Tell me what you think.
No, and I like the word you said cult because I feel like at some instances it is like a cult. Like you are leaded by these two people and you are playing follower. Like you kind of accidentally like transform into how these people are. It's kind of like who you surround yourself with is kind of a part of what you can transform to be. So if you're hanging around with people who aren't, you know, very accepting, your mindset unfortunately could shift, and that's kind of what you experience where you like said no to this person when that's not really your character at all.
Yeah,
It was the group kind of influencing you subconsciously to do that. So
yeah,
in some instances friend groups are great, but when they become to a point where it's like very exclusive and you know it can get very toxic in a sense. And I was like shaking my head very vividly because I don't have a personal experience like that, but I know from watching it how in a big group there can be several little groups.
hmm,
And some friend groups are great where like everyone loves each other and everyone is very honest with each other, but sometimes those groups divide and then there's like tension between different groups of the group and
oh
then
yeah,
it just all starts crumbling and falling apart and then there's like drama and then everything breaks up and then in 2 weeks everyone's just separate or like there's little groups that just like detach from the big group. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong, go right, but I would just say for personal advice, if you are in a big group and you're sensing some red flags, I would listen to them because your instincts are very valid. And just if you see signs, exit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you want to protect your character too and your morals. And if people are going against that, not the best people to surround yourself with, in my opinion.
That is so accurate. Like you said, it's like divide and conquer, and then everybody gets conquered. Everybody gets like it's just like a
Yeah.
disaster, and it does not end well. And I'm like, I totally like literally like my high school social life was like so. It was not like I tried, like at first to like fit in, and then like when you try to fit in, like you try to be someone you're not. That's what I went through. It's like don't try to be
It's
someone
a
you're
it's
not.
a bad spiral. I would never encourage that. It's like the normal thing to do is like you want to feel included because
Yeah,
that makes you feel good. But at the end of the day, you might feel good for about a week,
yeah,
but then after that week, you're gonna feel like I just lost my whole self. Like I am someone I am not for how many hours a day, 5 days a week, or even the whole week if you're hanging out with these people on the weekends. So you just kind of like lose yourself in the process. And for me personally, I don't have like this one friend group that I'm with all the time. I thrive on separate friendships from like different circles. I meet people or a person, and so what if they had another friend group? I'm gonna be friends with them. I don't have to join that friend group. I can have my relationship with that person. And then, for my birthday is coming up, like I'm having people from all over, no matter what, group or area they're in, like they're coming and they're just gonna join together and have fun. We're gonna have like a good time. So I just feel like don't be stressed out to be in a big friend group, to have all these friends, because at the end of the day, usually a a small group of really true, genuine, great friends is better than like 100 friends that are like so.
I couldn't agree more. I also thrive on separate friendships. That's the way I am now. Literally, all of my friends are literally in different states. So obviously this situation, but also literally everybody I talk to. Like, there's not a single person I'm that close with right now that actually lives close to me, which kind of sucks. At the same time, we can
Yeah,
still all be connected because we live in a digital world. That is one plus, as we
that's one
discussed
plus.
last week.
That's what we talked about
Yeah,
last episode. Was that like I met one of my best friends who literally was from online,
yeah.
and now we're like best friends. So it's all about balance.
Oh yeah. Um, I'm just laughing because I remember my mom told me this story she heard about she listens to this radio show called The Bobby Bones Show, and they were doing a story about like in the pandemic, like how like people like adults even like in their 30s and 40s who were like
Mm-hmm.
single but wanted to mingle. So so she
Oh my
he
god.
was talking about stories of like people who would like get married on Zoom, and I'm not like judging them, it's their lives or whatever, but like they would get married on Zoom without even like seeing each other in person. Like that to me like is a little extreme. That's just my opinion. But I just thought about that because
Oh my
like
god.
this is unrelated, it's off topic, but it made me laugh because I'm just thinking about how that would work with like a person you've never even been in the same room
No,
with.
like literally, that reminds me of this Netflix show. I don't know what it's called. Blind Love,
Love is blind.
blind. Love is blind.
Oh,
That's
love that
literally what
show.
that is, which is
Yeah.
a great message. But also, like, you don't see this person. Like,
Yeah.
you're going off of like random stuff, and then you end up, like in a marriage ceremony, and you're like, what the heck is this?
Oh
It's a
my
great
God.
motto, but like that was questionable, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, Love is Blind is like crazy. Like I don't know if I would ever I don't know how much money I'd have to get paid to be part of that experiment.
To do that.
Yeah.
I love the message. Like yes, like looks don't,
Yeah.
really matter, but the concept of, getting thrown into a marriage like that's a little scary, but
For sure.
I
All
mean,
right, yeah. All right, so two more to choose from. Maybe we'll just do them both. But we've got famous people in the spotlight and a shout out to my friend. Which one?
hmm. I'm curious to see what shout out to my friend is.
Okay.
So
Um,
we'll do that.
so when I was in Cali, I saw a friend who lives there, actually moved there, so I knew them back when I was here, when they were here. And
Okay.
I won't give out like information just for privacy and everything, but so like won't give a name or age. But this friend I didn't know was really having a rough time mentally,
Hmm.
and this person uh, told me that they had just gotten back from like a retreat to basically deal with what they were going through. And I know that it's kind of difficult without me giving many specific details, but the reason I wanted to bring it up is because this is something where I didn't have the firsthand experience myself, but I witnessed somebody who was struggling, and I saw how they took charge of their mental health, and I was very proud of them for going and having the bravery to be so open. And this is somebody who I really admire all the time for being so open with me, who always says if they're struggling, who will like, most people like don't want to admit when they're lonely, when they're sad, when they're depressed, when they're lost, and this person really opened up. And of course there's the heartbreak as a friend, but there's the I was so proud of them for and happy that they were okay. But they also told me like about the other people they saw and what they learned and who they met. And there's like a lot of people struggling out there. So what it really showed me was, and why I think it's important to mention, is it really showed me that like, even though I haven't experienced anything on that level, and Lorraine, I know you've talked about how we're kind of in the same boat there, but you know, if you are struggling with something where you have needed to go to a facility or you have considered going, this is not like an advertisement saying, hey, you should go check any place out. But it's just like, it really showed me that like so many people do struggle with this. And it also reminded me why we're doing this, you know, is to help people, because we don't know. I mean, someone might be listening and might not be going through that much, or they might be listening and they might be going through a lot. And somebody might be already kind of taking care of things, or they might, you know, be considering going someplace for help, or they don't know what to do. But the bottom line is, if you're struggling in any way whatsoever, you're not alone, because, you know, it's one thing to watch videos with like famous people talking about their mental health, or you hear a lot of times about like the famous people. Oh wow, that could be a good segue into the next topic. Anyway, it's
I just know how this is gonna go. I just predicted that we were gonna get into that.
Yeah,
which is why I chose it.
That's why you're my co-host.
You're welcome. I know. I'm just so good at this, guys.
Yes.
Continue.
But no, like it's almost like seeing anything in person is going to be a powerful experience. And so it was really powerful for me to see my friend, and I was glad that this person was okay. And also, you know, just like know that you're not alone, because there's a lot of people struggling, but there's hope. And I know that there's the cliche, it gets better, which my friend actually said can be a little bit irritating to hear sometimes. But also, like, I just have hope for everybody, because I think that anybody can get better. And so, my friend, if you're listening, I'm really glad you're okay. And anybody struggling, you are not alone.
Yeah, no, I think it's really admirable for people who really take charge of their situation and do something about it, and, you know, are making those steps to better themselves and, you know, get better.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, like you said, like, people who are watching, they can range, you know, from what they're struggling with to like minimal, severe, in between, whatever. But that doesn't make it any less valid, or your feelings less valid, or, you know, what you're going through less important. And we don't really know, because this is very like anonymous kind of type thing. Like, we don't know everyone's stories. We don't know the people who are watching this or listening to this right now, what they are going through, and we don't have to. Like, that's really not what we're doing. It's really just a universal message so that anyone who's hopefully listening can kind of get that pick me up, or that kind of like spark to, maybe if they haven't already, to maybe start making those first steps.
Yeah. And that was so beautifully said, because, you know, obviously I just gave a little anecdote that it was vague. I mean, because of wanting to keep things private, but I hope that also what people understand is like, you know, and sometimes being vague is the right thing to do, not just for privacy reasons, but like, hopefully it is, like you said, universal, right? Because it doesn't, because we're not experts, because we're not here to educate you on any specific thing. I only speak to what I've been through, Lorraine. You only speak to what you've been through. Hopefully, if you are somebody listening who struggles, and you may have anything, whether it's you're dealing with anxiety, depression, PTSD, anything whatsoever, hopefully the message comes across to you, even if we don't actually call out the situation for what it is. You know, me not revealing what my friend is going through is not hopefully taking away from you getting the message that you are not alone, because I've seen somebody I know who's very strong, who's getting through it. So
yeah, no, I really think that this is a beneficial thing for people to use. And I think, you know, like you said, with famous people, yeah, you see them, you know, talking and advocating for certain mental, you know, illnesses or subjects or whatever. And yes, that is great. However, it's a different level, like you said, when, the common person or like people in your age group who don't have that big light, who, understand and kind of are advocating for you. Like
Yeah.
it's a different level of like person, like I don't know what the right word is. Like it's very personal. It's
Yeah.
very you feel closer to that person. You don't feel as close to that celebrity as you probably would like me and Bennett.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really cool thing to have people who are kind of like you to also be talking about it, because that kind of fills that void of feeling alone.
It does. With that being said, we've got one more topic: famous people in the spotlight. Okay,
Yeah.
came up with this really
Okay,
last.
so before we
Yeah,
preface
yeah.
this, like I literally sent Bennett this video of this commentary YouTuber talking
Mm,
about the D'Amelio show on Hulu and their docu-series, because she did a great job of dissecting and analyzing every single part of that thing. And he watched it on his way to California or like somewhere, I don't know where he was in
I
the
watched it
sky.
before I even went to the airport and forgot to tell you, but
Okay, so
yeah.
great. So we watched it and he actually liked it, which I knew he would because I have great taste. So, you know. But I love this YouTuber, Smokey Glow, if you guys, want to check it out. But it's it's different seeing raw versus what you see online.
Oh yeah, you know what? We'll put it in the show notes because it's a really good two videos. Smokey Glow is her name. You might have heard of her. The reason I'm talking about this is, Lorraine, do you listen to Machine Gun Kelly at all?
No.
Me neither, but I mean, I know a few of his songs. I know the radio songs, but I know he's a popular rapper or rapper slash singer. A lot of people call him MGK. He was on the Drew Barrymore show, which is just like one of the slew of talk shows that are out there. And I thought I'd
Mm-hmm.
play this clip for you guys because I thought it really was interesting. It's about him kind of explaining how he feels about mental health. So take a listen.
I think I'm new to being vulnerable outside of songs, so it's like I see a lot of pictures of me, and there's like smiles on them, and I'm always like, it's just weird though, because I didn't feel good at all that day, and I kind of am sick of smiling on days when I don't feel like smiling, and I feel like this odd pressure because I don't want like my fans to think that I'm taking something for granted. So if like I accept an award and I'm like super smiley, but behind the scenes there was like stuff going on, or I didn't feel, I don't know. A lot of what I do is for other people, and I haven't given myself the time to just accept that it's okay to not be okay. So but I didn't just, my whole point is I just didn't want to bring that into the show. I'd love to talk about funny stuff, and anything that you have for me, I would love to just get out of what I'm doing, and like.
I don't mean to sound creepy, but I like you so much more.
Thanks.
All right. So Lorraine, what's your instant reaction to that?
I thought it was a very vulnerable moment. I feel like we don't see too many vulnerable moments from popular figures, because I feel like a lot of the time they feel scared to do that, or they feel like, being vulnerable is hard. And I feel like when you have millions of people listening and watching to you, being vulnerable is like being naked on a stage in front of like millions of people. It's scary. And so I commend him for doing that. I like what the commenter said at the end, whoever she like the host or whatever, that like she liked him even more after he just said that. He was kind of like, I don't want to talk about this. I want to go back to like, giggling, laughing, comedy, whatever. And she was like, no, that was great. And I like you more for that. And I feel like that's a great thing, because some people don't understand that being vulnerable is actually a show of strength rather than weakness. And that's actually a very, commendable thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like, I just want to get to a point where we're no longer, where this is like, as proud as I am of this show, it's like, I want to get to the point where we don't need it. Meaning like, I want society to get to a point where talking about mental health is not taboo. It's not unique. And, she gave this guy a platform to say that. And I think, again, it is commendable that Drew, liked him even more for that, because, when you're in the public eye, it is so easy to see that person and think, well, they're not struggling because they have all the fame and the money. And I know that we all know, I mean, we've heard for so long stories about celebrities struggling, but really I think that, we are making so much progress as a society, and that industry in particular. I do like what I'm seeing as far as, these so-called role models don't feel like they have to just like, hide how they're feeling. And even if they might just go on stage and suck it up and accept the award, they can then go on a talk show and say, I'm not feeling so good.
I feel like whether it's like, a song, music, movie, whatever they're doing, I feel like there's more vulnerability put into it. And that's why I feel like certain songs get very popular for those certain reasons, is that like, as a listener, you relate so much to what this artist is saying, that message that they're singing to you. And so I feel like that personal, deeper level that musicians are getting on with their audience is very impactful in many ways. And I feel like, sometimes I think like this person has so much, way more than I do, money, whatever. And I'm like, they couldn't have anything, going on the road, like kind of like overthink of like what maybe their struggles could be. But in reality, no matter what you have, that doesn't, cure any type of, mental health thing going on. Like that stuff doesn't relate to mental health. Mental health is its own identity. And I feel like we sometimes think like, oh, if this person has so much, like they're accomplishing so much, their life is perfect. Like they possibly nothing can be going wrong up there. But
Right.
That's really like far from the truth. Like they are. You just don't see
Yeah.
it, and it's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. I mean, well, first of all, I'm curious, just off the top of your head, do you have a song that you listen to when you may be having a bad day for any reason where you feel like that artist is being vulnerable and it just connects with you?
Well, on a more like popular note, I'd say Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Big fan. I think her music is great, and I think a lot of people are attached to it for reasons, because her storytelling and her emotion in these songs are very impactful. Not gonna brag. Got tickets, secured them.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry if you didn't get it. I'm really sorry. It's like really heartbreaking, but the race was tough. That was like freaking hard to get those tickets. Me and Kaylee are actually going to Philly.
I saw she posted that.
You saw that?
Yeah.
So it's very exciting. Sorry if you didn't get in. It's really unfortunate. But anyway, but for like a really deep song, I have to like really go into the depths of this. But I'm gonna say,
oh God, this is hard.
So
I'm also
actually,
trying to.
wait. So there's a lot. I actually listen to the thing about me is weird. I listen to sad songs when I'm not sad. I don't really know why. I just feel comfort.
Yeah.
And I like the message of, less upbeat songs more.
Right.
So I tend to listen to them even though I'm not feeling in that mood.
Right.
It doesn't make me feel like upset either. It just kind of like makes me feel well.
Right.
I don't really know how to put it.
Yeah.
But I'd say one of my good ones, it's Okay by Nightbird. I don't know if you know. Do you remember?
Oh wait, from America's Got Talent.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was struggling, I think, with cancer of some sort.
Yeah.
But her live Maple House performance, not like the regular It's Okay, it's like the one that's like acoustic more.
Right.
It is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. And I guess another runner up, I guess, would be probably, if I can find it. I literally just passed it. Hold on. It's Hold On by like Extreme Music. I don't really know. It's like a random like artist, but
yeah,
it's a really impactful song. I have so many. I could probably like list like 15.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, something about those songs I feel really attached and personalized, and I really like that.
Yeah, music
What about you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm just gonna say music is so powerful, and it can totally make us feel every emotion. So yeah, I would say there's a song that like, when a song you think is gonna blow up because it's on the Spotify like Pop Rising or whatever, and then it doesn't really do anything. But it's called Better Days by Dermot Kennedy, and it's very like the lyrics are very direct in the sense of like, I know you've been hurting, but better days are coming or something like that. But it just really hit me because I could feel like this guy knew how to convey through his vocal that better days are actually coming. And so he took that very direct message and I feel like when an artist can do that where they don't have to use a metaphor or you know, or any kind of device, like not saying that, I mean, there are so many clever songs that do that, but like also I would say like relationship wise, Happier Than Ever genuinely like healed me relationship wise when I was going through something over the summer. Like Billie Eilish put that song out right when I needed it. And like, I knew when they got to the arena chant part, when like, you know, it sounds like everybody's singing, I'm like, this is just amazing. Cause like it has that effect of like, we've seen over the past couple months, this song's been huge. Everybody feels it. So yeah, I would say those two are pretty big. And because you mentioned Olivia Rodrigo, we gotta, you know, just say, I mean, she's dominating it. She was just named, I think, was it Times Entertainer of the Year or something?
I know. She is doing great. And I feel like it's very deserved. I'm not saying that there's probably another side to the story.
Yeah.
That I think people are now getting now, because I think another person released music that people think is like the response.
Right.
But I just think what she says is beautifully said. And I think many people have felt that. And I feel like some of the things that she talks about, like being jealous of other people, I don't really speaks about that in songs. But she really put out a song called Jealousy, Jealousy. And it's so relatable because we all feel it, but no one's ever really sung it or voiced that message in that kind of way before. So I think it's very admirable that she's putting all that out.
I mean, even Brutal is a great record too. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that sound, first of all, the guitar is great. And I mean, it's just, talk about direct. God, it's brutal out here. I mean, you know.
No, I literally use that reference literally all the time now. Like, I just like say it's brutal out here, like just nonchalantly, like all the time, because it's literally like a great, you know, little phrase to say, because it feels like that sometimes. It feels like the world is just like beating down on you, and it's like, this is brutal.
And she speaks to teen angst. I mean, that's exactly, you know.
That's why she's so like, you know, relatable, because it's literally what all of us are feeling, but she's conveyed it in a way that, you know, like it's hard to convey those things sometimes. What you're feeling, it's very hard to get it out in words. And I feel like she literally did it beautifully, which is really commendable, because sometimes it's hard to like, you know, you feel something and it's like, how do I express it? But she expressed everything with ease. So props to her. She's doing great.
Oh yeah, you know, in case you've never heard of Olivia Rodrigo, we're talking about this like kind of unknown artist. She hasn't really made it onto the scene yet, but she's like kind of just starting to pop off a little bit. But you know,
she sold out her whole freaking tour in like under 30 minutes.
No big deal.
No big deal. NBD.
You know, if you haven't heard of her, whatever. But no. Okay, Lorraine, any thoughts before we go?
Not really. I'm very excited that I'm on here again, and will continue to be, because now I am
co-host status. Hired.
I'm just
contracted.
So good. Like, I literally said this up. He was like, let's do a random, you know, choice selection. I literally lined it up perfectly, where I feel like everything kind of segued.
Yeah.
So I'm just magical like that.
Yes. Amazing. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to Mental Health on the Mic. I hope you have a beautiful day. And also this new sign I have, in case you're seeing this, I don't think I'm pointing in the right direction. If you're seeing this,
I was watching that too. If you were watching this on YouTube, you will know what the sign says. That kind of prompts you to go on YouTube if you are watching on a podcast platform, to go on YouTube, because see the message.
And I kind of like change it up every week too, so you're gonna want to stay tuned for that.
I know. Like, didn't you last time have like a iCarly remote?
Sure did. All right.
This is why you go on the YouTube version, because it gets really interesting.
All right. I think that we did a great job. I'm really proud of us. So thank you guys for listening. Have an awesome day. This has been Mental Health on the Mic.